Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries, where we have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour that cup of coffee and turn on your fright light while we take you on a tour of terror. And Dylan, we are sitting here very terrified after everything that we have seen this week, notably all this Brandon Cronenberg properties that we're getting brushed up on. And I don't know, I'm still thinking about Infinity Pool. Very compelling film.
Oh yeah, no, definitely still thinking about Infinity Pool. Still thinking about those masks primarily. Also, they are the background of Bloody Disgusting today. So, that's an image that is still fresh in my head.
You know, as we were sitting in the theater watching that, and you're going through your head of things that maybe this director could really, do something intriguing with. I've talked to you on multiple occasions about the island of Dr. Moreau and how that troubled production, which we will get into, I'm sure someday on Splattercast, because it's so intriguing. But I was thinking as I was sitting there watching Infinity Pool, I was like, I think Brandon Cronenberg could be the dude that really could pull off a modern version of the island of Dr. Moreau. I think he could really have a unique take on that.
That is a good pick. That's a very strong pick because, like I said, he's very well rounded. I felt like he never got too far out there into the complete and utter weird zone to turn off casual moviegoers, but still kept it nice and interesting and different. So yeah, I definitely think that's a good pick for that. That's an actual really strong property. I've never actually thought about who would be appropriate for that kind of material, just because it's never really gotten its justice.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Mhm.
Especially, I don't know if I have mild love for the actual film itself, just because I watched it as a kid,
Mhm.
and some of the prosthetics in it are really intriguing. So I always encourage people to watch that, even though it's not the best film at all. But yeah, just going back to Infinity Pool and Brandon Cronenberg, the world that he sets up really kind of gave me that with the island and everything like that. I thought was interesting. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess we'll see. We're already having a stellar time here in the horror realm, for certain. So we'll see what everything leads to, I suppose.
Oh, as always, my friend. But why don't we hop into this week's news coverage? We got a couple of fun stories. So we're going to kick things off here talking about Violent Night
Ah,
or Violent Night 2, I should say, is finally in the works. So yes, it was confirmed early this week, that we would be getting Violent Night 2, and Tommy Ricola, how do you say that?
I'm
Uh,
gonna go with what you just said.
Okay.
Ricola.
Is returning to direct. So yeah, this is exciting. We definitely had a lot of fun.
Very
Um,
intriguing because you hate this film,
I
the
don't hate
original.
this movie. It's like I gave it a very positive review. I just had some criticisms, and Luke just can't seem to handle my criticisms for the Killer Santa Claus movie. So and I was nice to Christmas Bloody Christmas. I thought that would redeem me, but no, I guess not.
No, Dylan trashed this movie coming out of the theater. He just won't admit to it. No, I'm kidding. But I'm excited to see Violent Night 2. I did thoroughly enjoy the first one. I thought it was a lot of fun. We kind of struggle with that one. It's a genre film, not necessarily straight up horror or anything like that. So we were kind of, um, I remember initially debating on whether we could fit it in the channel, but hey, it's our channel, so we can do what we want. Um, I would love to see Violent Night Part Two here really dive into the realm of horror, like even the supernatural. I would find it very intriguing if our version of Santa Claus here took on a version of Krampus. I always
Yeah.
love those things. So I think that would be a lot of fun if we get deep into the horror roots, and then plus where um, the idea of the character here of him prior to being Santa Claus, almost this timeless element. Maybe we see something come back from his past or something like that. I think could be intriguing. I would love for them to dive even more deep into the supernatural element, kind of give Santa Claus a run for his money a little more than John Leguizamo and his cronies.
Absolutely. And, they even mentioned that in the article. A
Oh,
couple of things to kind of highlight on this story is that Pat Casey and Josh Miller, the writers of the last one, are coming back as well. So you're getting a whole reteaming of the entire cast and team pretty much, which is a great sign. Hopefully they can turn this thing pretty quick, and then, we'll be all set to go maybe by this Christmas. I feel like
Oh
that's
man, I thought you
too
mentioned
quick.
that they mentioned Krampus in this. I was
No,
like,
they do mention though, there's stuff we left on the floor like the North Pole, Mrs. Claus, and elves. But story wise, I think it'd be really, really cool idea to expand on the world and scope, but still keeping the tone that we love from the first one. So yeah, I think that the idea that you're having there of possibly bringing in like a Krampus at some point, is definitely one of the ideas they're floating around. I'd love to see like a Grinch-like character
yes.
be an antagonist at one point. If they're, for a movie that started off with just a bunch of people being held hostage for money, kind of a little bit more of a grounded antagonist, I should say. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, we've done that. We've already established that he's from ancient Viking times. So it's like, go fucking crazy with this. Give me all kinds of weird twists like Jack Frost and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And it's where, again, if when we're dealing with the element of Santa Claus, I think that opens the door pretty much for almost anything to come through. And I say you embrace it. I think they've already established a fun character casting David Harbour as this killer Santa Claus in a sense. But someone that we enjoy. So I think really you've created this lovable character. Let's bring a bunch of let's stack the odds against him, and let's bring in these antagonists that are going to give him a real run for his money. And I mean, like for this, I'm not against, seeing a violent night every few years, as long as they can kind of maintain the quality of that original. I say you go full board and do as many of these things as you can. So I was absolutely excited to see that we were getting that sequel. I was anticipating it walking out of the theater the first one. I was like, I really hope this is like a not necessarily every year, but every few years we get this because I love going to the theater, especially to see these random Santa Claus movies like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a fun time. I definitely like seeing Christmas and horror come together, at least Christmas and genre films
Yeah.
kind of getting pushed together a little more closely again these days. So I am definitely excited about this, even though Luke will say otherwise. I will be there for Violent Night too. And I am excited to see where they go with this. I would love to add some more Christmas weird traditional elements to it.
Dylan's going to try to trash a Violent Night too. I already know it. Just how he is.
Alrighty, and we're going to move on to the next story here where we're talking Children of the Corn remake finally getting a March release from RLJE Films and Shudder. So you see words like Children of the Corn remake, and you think, of course, that's coming. That's probably was a guarantee, for when all these Stephen King properties started getting remade. It's just a very popular one amongst people. Finally getting March release. Now, I don't really know how to take that, as it's one of those things where it's like, okay, has this just been sitting on a shelf for a little while?
Yeah.
Or is this one of those things where it's like, okay, they've just been, silent. We haven't heard anything. So we're just kind of, getting there. What we do know is that it will be hitting theaters on March 3rd, and it's going to have an 18-day theatrical window before it hits Shudder on March 21st. So, this is another fun one to throw in the March catalog there. We're going to probably talk about it for sure. We got Scream that month and everything. So, yeah, another great horror movie, I guess, to throw in the mix, whether that is great as in it'll be good or just great because, hey, more horror is yet to be decided. So, Luke, what do you think of this Children of the Corn remake?
I do not have high hopes for it.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you seen the original?
I remember I watched it on TV ages and ages ago as a kid. I don't recall much of it at all. It just didn't really grab my interest.
Okay, and that's where I'm at with it. I think I remember the opening scene. The kids turning on all the adults. And that's really it for me. It's Children of the Corn for me just seems like a forgettable property, and I don't know if it's one that is something that's I guess with Stephen King's name attached to anything like this, you're really gonna try to make a play to get this made theatrically in some point, but it's not like I don't think this has the kind of selling points as something like an It or A lot of the other things that Stephen King has that are just really notable. Children of the Corn has always been around, but it's never really been something that everyone's like, oh, we need a Children of the Corn remake or anything. Even when the original came out, I don't know if it was a big hit then. It just seemed to always kind of be on TV. It was always a passive watch whenever it was on. So I don't remember if I've ever actually sat down and see the actual whole film. I think Linda Hamilton's in it, but I don't remember 100%.
She is in it. I can confirm that.
And like you said, not really keeping tabs on this. I know like we've had the articles about Salem's Lot in that kind of being like, oh, it's being pushed back and doesn't have a release anymore. Children of the Corn I had no idea that this was, even a thing that was still, a property that was being like, oh, this is rich for a remake or to bring this back onto the screen or anything. Because again, it wasn't something that has intrigued me. I think the director here, what did he do? Ultraviolet maybe or something.
Yeah, Equilibrium and the remake of Point Break
And
and
so
Total Recall.
and like for me, it wasn't anything that I was like that stuck out to me. Be like, oh man, this is the right guy to bring this property to prominence. So for me, I don't have high hopes for it. I think this is probably just going to be some random one it's thrown out there. I'm surprised it's getting a theatrical release. Again, it's probably going to be very limited. I'm going to say. So I don't think it's really going to do big numbers or get word of mouth going. I think this will probably be one. I think this is going to be like a fire starter where it's probably going to forget that it came out in 2023.
I definitely am getting Firestarter vibes from this, which is great for us because that's one of the first movies we reviewed on the channel. But yeah, no, that's definitely what I thought of when I saw this, and I'm actually reading into this a little bit more. In Wim's movie, which is said to have very little to do with King's novel, a psychopathic 12-year-old girl in a small town in Nebraska recruits all the other children and goes on a bloody rampage, killing the corrupt adults and anyone else who opposes her. A bright high schooler who won't go along with the plans is the town's only hope for survival. So yeah, very different story. Seems like I wonder if we're going to get the entity. I know there's like some form of force out in the cornfields that kind of draws the kids and makes them, this evil. So I'm very curious to see if that's going to come into play here. But yeah, I mean, I would probably go check this out for the channel in theaters if it's available or around us, or if we can get a screener or something. But if not, then I don't really mind watching this on a Shudder. I think that's at least a smart idea to throw it on streaming because, I don't see this getting a lot of butts and seats unless the trailer drops and suddenly we have all these people coming out of the woodwork, or coming out of the cornfield saying, yeah, Children of the Corn, I've been waiting,
It just so much anticipation that we had no clue that existed. But, I don't really see it. I think this will be a hard sell to get me out to the theater. But, if it's playing nearby, maybe I don't think I can see myself driving a good chunk of time to make time for Children of the Corn. We did Silent Night, Deadly Nights over Christmas, and boy, was that painful. I feel like if we ever really want to torture ourselves, we can dive into the catalog of all these Children of the Corn sequels.
Hey, I'm down. I am always down to watch some crappy movies. Alrighty, so we're going to move on to the next topic. We're going to be talking Willem Dafoe joining the cast of
Always
Nosferatu from that Robert Eggers. Almost forgot how to say his name, even though it's right there. Good job. But this is kind of a given at this point. Ever since The Lighthouse, him and Robert Eggers have been tight and close, and they just definitely enjoy each other's work. I think that Eggers definitely understands where Willem Dafoe is in his career and the kind of roles he's interested in playing. Because even in The Northman, which you haven't seen yet still?
No.
All right. It's okay. He has a role. It's not a massive role, but it's a strange role. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think that he's definitely going to be a staple for Eggers as time goes on, if he hasn't already established himself there.
Yeah, I remember listening to the story of how the relationship came to form. I think during The Lighthouse, and they both are pretty infatuated with each other, and I think they work well with each other. So where it's like Willem Dafoe is just such a unique actor. It's like you have to find, if you have a director that cannot bottle up his essence and portray it on screen, I think I think you have a problem being a director because um, he's just a tremendous actor and he brings so much to these roles. And Robert Eggers, I mean, looking at his filmography, Lighthouse is just an exceptional film. I mean,
Mhm.
there's no other way around it. So it's like knowing that these two are going to be back together and already looking at the cast for Nosferatu. I think we brought up Nosferatu a while ago on Sunday Scaries when it was first announced. And it was just kind of, in its infancy. And I think they just had, Bill Skarsgård and, Johnny Depp's
Nicholas
daughter,
Holt and Lily Rose Depp were all
Lily
cast at
Rose
the
Depp.
same time.
So it's like adding Willem Dafoe here. I mean, man, you're adding a juggernaut to this cast, and we already brought up Brandon Cronenberg and how he can make use of if his casting. Robert Eggers is another guy. I love his period pieces. I love that he makes use of everyone in the cast. He really gets those performances. This is going to be no different. He's clearly the guy to bring Nosferatu into, whether it's going to be a modern version of it or he's just going to do another period piece. Whatever this guy's going to do, I'm absolutely excited for it. So I mean, like, you could probably cast almost anyone in this film, and I'm going to be like, Robert Eggers is going to know exactly what to do with this actor. So it's almost like null and void for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely excited for this movie. Not only is Nosferatu just in interest in like my uh, love of older horror cinema,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things where it's like having Robert Eggers come onto this and it being such a passion project that has been so publicized for so long that if you follow him at all, you've known that this is something he's been trying to get made for years. That I am so excited for this. I love seeing people's dream movies get realized and things like that. And the fact that this is and now this cast is shaping up like this, it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, really, the only thing they could do is really get Alexander Skarsgård in here at some point, or
Oh
maybe
man.
Robert Pattinson in like cameo roles. And yeah, then you're talking almost. And I mean, obviously, I can't forget Anya Taylor-Joy, his true muse. I mean, he just works so well with all these actors. He's got himself a nice little crew that love to work with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point it can do no wrong, I think. And I also love the aesthetic of Nosferatu. We always see Nosferatu in a lot of clips and things like that, but I think a lot of people it's got lost upon where it's like a lot of people haven't went back and actually watched the film itself. So I'm glad that it's being brought back into the more modern realm where people are gonna actually go see this film and kind of rekindle that love because Nosferatu is one of those staples I think in horror that a lot of people have forgotten.
No, absolutely. Because, and I was just excited. I'm gonna gloat and brag a little bit here. I just got my Dracula NECA to go on with Universal Monsters. I put it up on Friday, a picture on our Instagram. So follow us on Instagram. But yeah, no, and the fact that they are releasing a Nosferatu figure has me so excited too. I just love that the character's kind of coming into the pop culture zeitgeist again of people
Yeah.
actually recognizing him and knowing him, and he's not just the weird cutaway gag in SpongeBob for people my age. So, you know,
Yeah, a great character design for the time
mhm.
as well. So I'm intrigued to see Robert Eggers' vision here. I think everything's going to be truly unique. Bringing in that kind of connective tissue from the original film, but also making that unique spin that he always does with all these films. I'm curious to see if this will be black and white or this will be a more modern take, and he's going to do color here. Either way, I'm going to be excited for it. I just can't wait to see it.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Alrighty, and then getting on to kind of our bigger topic here. This was the one I saved for the end because I feel like we'll have a good bit to say. Uh, Weapons. Barbarian director Zach Cregger sets up his next horror movie with New Line Cinema. So that is pretty exciting. Zach Cregger definitely knocked it out of the park here this past summer. He made Barbarian, as stated in the headline, which was both our favorite film of 2022 when you go into the realm of horror there. And I was definitely anticipating what his next project was going to be. I didn't know how soon we were going to get it, and it stayed quiet for a while. So I just figured it would probably be something, maybe we have to wait a few years. Maybe he'll be like the Brandon Cronenberg type who, he was like 7 years between
Yeah.
Antiviral and Possessor kind of thing. So I really didn't know what to think. And then it was just a nice little smile across my face when I read this. Because it's exciting, man. This is definitely nice to see him working with a bigger studio and just getting another original project of his off the ground.
And being budding screenwriters and things. I had read I think it was a Hollywood Reporter article on this when it first came out. Really got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Just the excitement here because you look at Zach Cregger and I think what he came out with Miss March. I think that was like in the
Mm-hmm.
late, I don't know, it was like 2008, 2009, maybe something like that. Um, I don't know if you saw that film. I did. It's just, a random comedy film. Nothing real notable about it or anything. So, didn't really hear anything from him. So, like, when Barbarian was coming out, I was like, this is the guy from Miss March and, all this stuff. I'm like, well, let's see what he's got. The trailer for me, I talked about it a few times. I was already sold, but obviously, the trailer portrays something very different than the actual film itself. And they both work. So, like, looking at this and looking at that article, knowing that there was a absolute top bidding war for weapons, and for that coming out, I think what they said, everyone wanted to kind of get a sneak peek of it, but they all had to wait till like I think it was this past was it Sunday or something like that, January 22nd. I think is when it initially hit. A lot of people to actually be able to take a gander at it, and then a bidding war ensued after that. And I think they're talking 8 figures or something like that he got for the screenplay. So it's kind of like, and he's getting, final cut, pending a
Ooh.
couple different things like that. So I mean, he's really calling his shots here. And after a guy that's really just, you did the Miss March thing. And now Barbarian, and really hanging your head on Barbarian, such a quality film, and being able to call these shots right now and really showing the prominence that horror has in the scope of just filmmaking in general, to ensue this bidding war, I mean, got me so excited. This dude, obviously had, you know, wasn't prominent up until, really striking gold with Barbarian. Who knew? And then now this dude's a top horror director and, legitimately has changed his life. And it's like, that's all it takes. That he mentioned in the article, in that layover between Miss March and Barbarian, he just wrote, and he said wrote some good stuff, wrote some bad stuff, and there's some stuff that works in here. So it's like just knowing the persistence that he had, and finally getting his due, it just has me overly excited.
No, it's definitely exciting. It's encouraging to hear stuff like that. Yeah, I like this. This is all good stuff. I'm surprised that they agreed to Final Cut for him there. And I mean, that's kind of a daunting task. You'll see a lot of people like the guy who did It Follows had a movie come out just after Under the Silver Lake. I own it. I have yet to watch it still, but very controversial film. That was also a big thing where he got Final Cut and all that, and a lot of people say that it was wasted because it wasn't great or something like that. Very diverse, so it's
It's a
one of
very
those things
long
where,
film, I think.
yeah, it's a double edged sword. But I am eager to see what he comes up with here, and I'm confident that he'll be able to deliver something just as interesting and crazy as Barbarian. Because I mean, he's got that creative spirit. I think that there's a darkness in there that he also melds really well with comedy, and also he just knows how to build tension in a scene. And I think if he just stick to those roots and try not to get too big with it, I think that he'll have much success for years to come.
Yeah, and like you said, a daunting task certainly because Barbarian was our top horror film, and honestly, I'll put that film up even just in general filmmaking for the year as well. And it popped up on a lot of people's, if not top, but probably top five of the year for horror. So you look at that and coming out, not no one not really knowing what to expect out of the Barbarian film, he automatically has big shoes to fill, his own shoes. And so it's like, I'm sure it's pretty nerve wracking for him to kind of be like, oh man, I set a pretty high bar and I've got to live up to it. So, but in that layover, I'm sure weapons was created in that long layover. So I'm sure that hunger that was there for Barbarian exists in the screenplay for Weapons. So I'm really excited for this one. I think, I have high hopes for it. So I hope they live up to them. But I'll go in, expecting the best. But I'm not gonna. I already have a soft spot for him, so it's probably going to be one of those things where I'll probably go light on him regardless. But we do have Barbarian, so regardless of Weapons, Barbarian top-notch filmmaking. So let's just hope the bar gets raised even higher with Weapons.
I hope so too. I'm very curious to see a trailer for this and what kind of tone they're going for. If it's going to be kind of like that Barbarian style where they're going to try to hide as much, if it's going to be even like that with the twist or anything, or if it's going to be a little bit more of a straightforward story. I'm just curious to see his wings spread out even further, just to see what more he can do. And although I like my big mother monster thing that comes out at the end, I don't know if this is going to have that kind of twist. It'd be nice. I'd love to see more creatures and monsters, of course, but at the end of the day, I'd like to see him, because that was one of the big things for Barbarian, is it's like the human characters themselves too are very well rounded, and there are some people in Barbarian who are very naughty and questionable and dark people. So I'm curious to see what he does with the whole cast of that. So
very nice.
And I'm curious to see who he's going to cast in this film. Who's going to want to hop on board?
I think he's probably going to have a pick of a pretty good lineup, I'm guessing here. I did see in the article that I believe they mentioned Magnolia being kind of reminiscent of whatever Weapons is going to be. I haven't seen Magnolia, so I don't know what to expect there. I'm probably going to watch that one in anticipation of this. But, I'm excited for it. Like I said, I'm excited to see the casting as well. I think he's probably going to have a top list of people that he's going to be able to get for this film, because there is a lot of buzz around Zach Cregger and this upcoming film.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So, that is going to wrap us up for the news this week, guys. Yeah, that's everything we got. All the interesting stories we could find and grace you with on this fine Sunday morning. Of course, we do have a lot of great stuff still coming to the channel. Lots of things going on behind the scenes that we are just getting prepared that we'll be able to share with you in the coming weeks. So we're pretty excited about that. We as of the time of recording this, we haven't done it yet, but we're getting closer to possibly the first little video game live stream. So if that goes well, maybe we'll have some more of those in the future here. Always keep it here for later tonight with The Last of Us. We're gonna be talking episode 3, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I guess that about wraps us up. So if you're new here and you just start stumbling across the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.